So my second finger makes a box, my third, and my pinky also makes a slight box. That'll be easier to see if I hold it in a normal position, like this. You'll notice my second and third finger touch each other. Between the open string and the first finger, I have a whole space, a whole step. Between the first and second finger, I have a whole space, a whole step. Between the second and third, I touch, and I have another space to the pinky. We don't need to worry too much about the pinky right now. We'll come back to it soon. The most important thing is to get the first finger placed correctly. And we need to remember a couple things about our fingers, our arm, and our hand before we lock in the first finger. So the first thing is the thumb is the only part that belongs on the far side of the violin, and it needs to gently touch with the pad. And you need to make sure that the thumb isn't too high. If the thumb comes above the violin and curves over, I lose my hole below the violin. I need that hole to be able to shift back and forth. If I'm up here, I'm going to be stuck. So I need to have the thumb with a small hole. Now I need to bring my arm to the inside of the violin. I need to be able to see my elbow through the crook, through the hole here. And then, once I can see my elbow, then I'm going to place my first finger bass joint nice and high until I can make a square with my first finger. Everybody's fingers are different. So some people, it may be too high if you have your joint that high. You need to make a box, and that first finger needs to hit on the tip. And what we want is we want to hit on the very tip of the finger and not the pad. So instead of hitting on the squishy part, we want to hit on the very tip. And we want the string to hit the very center of the tip of your finger. So once you've been playing, you want to see that you have a line right in the center of your finger. If the line's off to the side or on the squishy part, the pad, you haven't aligned your first finger properly. It's very important that we get this right. You notice how much time we're taking. So thumb straight up, elbow in. Arm straight, joint high. Once the joint is high, we're going to curl the first finger onto the mark we made or onto the B note on the fretless finger guide. We're going to make sure the top is nice and straight. And we want to squeeze down until the tip turns ever so slightly whiter or more yellow because of the pressure. Now, in order to keep our hand in position, we need to squeeze at 3 places as we're playing the violin. If all or one of the fingers are down, we're going to squeeze in 3 places. If we have no fingers down, we're going to squeeze between the thumb and the side of the index finger. So always, we will squeeze between the thumb and the side of the index finger in towards the violin. Squeeze in. Why? Because when you squeeze in, you're going to keep your hand in position and your fingers are not going to move off of their spots, off of their marks on the violin. If you don't squeeze, as soon as you start adding other fingers, the lower fingers are going to move around, and this does not sound great on the violin. Okay, so we squeeze in and we put the first finger down. And then we're going to squeeze the second finger on the tip, make sure it's centered on the string, and then the third finger. And we're going to squeeze nice and hard, and if your fingers look like this, you are correct. And we're going to start plucking 4 plucks with 3 fingers down. Make sure you're plucking on the A string and your fingers are on the A string. If you're plucking on a different string than your fingers are on, it's not going to sound that great. So make sure everything's on the A string. And what I want you to do is just ever so slightly lift the third finger up. Be very careful. When we lift up the fingers, we don't want to lift very far off the string. If you lift them very far, you're going to have a long way to come back and it's going to make your playing slow and difficult. Okay, pluck 2 fingers down. If it doesn't sound great, if it sounds like this, you're probably not squeezing enough or you're not on the tip. Make sure you squeeze in with your thumb and the side of your index finger, make your box, and go to finger number 1. And then as you go to the open string, this is the most important time to keep your squeeze. As you lift up your fingers, keep squeezed here. This is very important. Keep squeezing between the thumb and the side of the first finger.